Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're launching a full-on critical investigation into what modern culture is doing to the human condition. We're looking at the screens we're all glued to, not just as, communication devices, but as actual identity-altering machines. We're going to systematically break down exactly how we got here, what's happening to our minds, and most importantly, how we can actually escape the algorithm.
Okay, let's kick things off with a massive what if. Imagine waking up tomorrow to absolute, total silence. No Instagram, no TikTok, no Snapchat streaks, no pressure to perform or prove to an audience that your life matters. Just silence. Nobody flexing their lifestyle, and no endless doom scrolling at 2 in the morning. Ask yourself honestly, would people actually be happier? Or would we just feel completely alone?
We really need to challenge this massive generational lie we were all sold. You know the one? The more connected we become, the less lonely we feel. Well, let's look at the reality here. We are literally more connected than any humans in history, yet anxiety, insecurity, and depression are absolutely everywhere. It kind of makes you wonder, maybe depression didn't spread through the schools. Maybe it spread through the screens. Social media didn't just change how we talk to each other. It fundamentally changed our identity. We kind of stopped living life and started performing it instead.
Section 1. Case file, The Boy Who Became Content.
To really understand this shift, let's take a look at a micro case study of a 17-year-old named Ethan. He started out with a completely normal life in California. Notice step 1 here, a totally normal childhood, riding bikes, just living in the moment. Then step 2, he downloads Instagram, and the comparison trap begins. Suddenly, everyone else seems to have way more money, better relationships, perfect vacations. Moving to step 3, his whole personality shifts. Ethan starts hitting the gym, but not for fitness, for validation. He stops posting things he actually likes and only posts what gets attention. And then finally, step 4, a 2:13 a.m. realization where he stumbles across an old, completely unfiltered video of himself as a 10-year-old kid, just genuinely happy.
Ethan's realization is honestly terrifying. He asks, "What happened to me?" And it perfectly highlights the really scary reality of social media, right? It changes people so incredibly slowly that they don't even realize they're disappearing.
Moving on to section 2, the addiction to being seen.
Pop culture actually warned us about this identity trap years ago. Just look at anime. In Death Note, Light Yagami starts out as this calm, ambitious kid, but he becomes so utterly obsessed with how the world sees him that he essentially stops being a person and morphs into this godlike persona. Or think about Naruto, who spent his entire childhood desperate just to be noticed. Now, compare that to our social media reality today. Millions of us are out there creating these cooler, smarter characters online and eventually getting trapped inside those curated identities. Every single post is quietly begging, "Please notice me." But here's the wild illusion. Social media gives you visibility, sure, but without ever making you feel actually understood. Views are not love, guys, and followers are definitely not friends.
Let's pivot for a second to the hard neuroscience driving all of this. We got to talk about dopamine. It's the chemical in our brains connected to pleasure and reward. And social media apps are literally engineered to aggressively exploit it. Every notification, every swipe, every single like, bam, it's a dopamine hit. Your brain starts demanding infinite stimulation, constantly whispering just one more video, just one more refresh. And because of this never-ending curated stimulation, real unrecorded life, the kind with no filters or background music, begins to feel completely boring by comparison. And when real life gets replaced by those curated digital moments, the clinical facts are pretty grim. Excessive usage is directly linked to anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, loneliness, and severely shortened attention spans. So it's not just eating up our time, it's actively deteriorating our mental health. All of this leads to a super dangerous psychological shift. We stop asking ourselves, hey, what do I actually enjoy? And we start asking, what gets engagement? Once you make that shift, your authenticity is pretty much destroyed. Your hobbies suddenly become content, your raw emotions become clever captions, and tragically, your personal pain just becomes entertainment for the feed.
Okay, section 3, the absurdity of the modern screen. Seriously, just look at the absolute absurdity of how performative we've all become. People don't go to restaurants to eat anymore. They go to take photos of their pancakes. You've got influencers faking these natural 5 a.m. routines. Like if the camera is already set up on a tripod, absolutely nothing about that morning is natural. Or gym culture, where setting up the tripod is somehow way more important than actually building muscle. And don't even get me started on the 19-year-old crypto bros acting as mindset coaches straight from their childhood bedrooms. But my absolute favorite, attention spans are now so terrifyingly short that people literally can't watch a 10-second video without needing Subway Surfers gameplay running underneath it just to stay focused. You really have to step back and laugh. But honestly, humanity might just be cooked.
Section 4. The End of Unrecorded Life. Now we're hitting what's really a tragic emotional peak. A whole generation that is starving for connection while being completely surrounded by attention. Think for a second about the historical human experience, something kids today might literally never know. Moments without cameras, friendships without screenshots, memories that existed purely in the heart, existing as souls in moments of absolute silence and reflection. Now contrast that profound beauty with the performative online identity we're stuck with today. Endless stimulation, documenting every waking moment, face-tuning ourselves to be quote-unquote perfect. We've basically stopped existing as souls, and we've started treating ourselves like corporate brands. And that leads to this incredibly tragic mindset. If something isn't posted online, did it even really happen? That is honestly how so many people feel today. We no longer fully experience moments, we just document them. And why? Well, because people are terrified of being alone with their own thoughts. Silence is uncomfortable. The second a hint of sadness or boredom creeps in, we just start scrolling. But escaping your emotions isn't healing them. It's literally just delaying them. So think about this. If social media disappeared tomorrow, would you still know who you are? Just let that hang in the air for a second. So many young people feel incredibly lost today, not because they're weak, but because they've spent years becoming exactly what an algorithm rewards, instead of figuring out who they actually are. Which brings us to Section 5, Reclaiming Your Authentic Mind. So how do we actually get out of this mess? Well, it is possible to escape the trap, and we've got 5 practical steps to start healing. Step 1, spend 1 hour every single day totally offline. No phone, no music, just you and your thoughts. It's going to feel super uncomfortable at first, but I promise then it becomes incredibly peaceful. Step 2, stop checking social media in the morning. Protect your mind before breakfast. Do not let total strangers dictate your mood for the day. Step 3, build real-life connections. Texting is not enough. Get outside, laugh naturally, and this is absolutely crucial, create memories that nobody else records. Step 4, create way more than you consume. Read a book, write something down, go exercise. Just don't spend your entire life watching other people live theirs. And finally, step 5, ask the nightly question. This nightly question is literally the master key. If nobody online could see my life, what kind of life would I actually want? Let that sink in. This specific question has the power to change absolutely everything about your perspective, and it helps strip away that exhausting performative mask you've been wearing. Because here is the ultimate truth of our explainer today. Social media itself might not be evil, but losing yourself entirely for validation absolutely is. You were not born to become content. You were born to become human. True happiness was never hiding inside a follower count, guys. It was hiding right there inside real life all along. So tonight, right before you go to sleep, just put your phone down for 1 single minute. Sit quietly and ask yourself honestly, am I truly living, or am I just uploading my existence? I really want you to reflect on that. And hey, let us know in the comments. Would your life become better or worse without social media? If this explainer shifted your perspective even a little bit, share it with someone who really needs to hear this today.
Welcome to This Explainer. You know, if you're a college student listening to this right now and you're feeling overwhelmed, maybe a bit stuck, or just totally exhausted, I really want you to treat this like a letter written directly to you. We're going to take a hard look at a modern trap that's, well, it's silently draining your potential. But more importantly, we're going to talk about how you can actually find your way out of it.
So what if social media just vanished tomorrow? I mean, really imagine it. You wake up, you grab your phone out of habit, you open Instagram, and nothing. YouTube, gone. TikTok, deleted. No reels, no notifications, no little dopamine hits every 5 seconds. Just pure silence. Honestly, most of us wouldn't even know what to do with our lives anymore, right? Because somewhere along the line, we kind of handed over our entire identity to these apps. Section 1. A world without screens, the modern trap. I talk to so many students today who are just completely mentally exhausted, even if they literally haven't moved from their desks all day. And hey, I want to validate that for you right now. Your tiredness is very real. You sit down to study, and suddenly, almost on autopilot, your hand opens an app, and boom, you fall into a trance. It's the temporary relief of endless scrolling versus the profound silence of a vanished digital world. It's a painful loop, really. You scroll because you're bored, then you get tired, then anxious, then guilty because you know you're wasting your potential, and then you scroll more just to escape that heavy guilt. Contrast that with true, genuine rest in a silent digital world. We're constantly choosing this painful loop of overstimulation over actual peace. Okay, let's dive into this. Your brain isn't weak, it's overstimulated. This is absolutely crucial to understand. Your inability to sit down and focus for 20 minutes, it isn't because you lack willpower, and it certainly isn't because you aren't smart enough. It's actually a symptom of an invisible addiction that society literally claps for. People praise the funny memes and the constant digital sharing, but behind the scenes, your mind is being trained to demand entertainment every few seconds.
Section 2. Watching instead of becoming, the anime parallel.
We've slowly become spectators in our own lives, living through others instead of taking action for ourselves. There's a reason anime characters inspire people so deeply. Think about Naruto learning the Rasengan through years of solitary, grueling, repetitive training, versus Naruto just scrolling through endless Instagram edits of other heroes. Imagine Eren Yeager sitting in bed watching motivation videos all day instead of taking action. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, right? But guys, that is literally what we're doing. It's the modern disease, watching productivity videos, watching discipline content, consuming motivation, and yet creating absolutely no action. We're getting this quick dopamine hit of feeling productive without putting in any of the actual hard work. Essentially, we are consuming life instead of actually experiencing it.
Section 3. The prison of endless scrolling, the lost student.
I want to tell you a quick story about an imaginary student named Arjun. Arjun's an average guy, but he's got big dreams. He wants to pass his exams, get fit, make his parents proud. Every night he lays in bed and promises himself, tomorrow. Tomorrow will be different. But let's walk through his actual daily loop. 10 a.m., he wakes up late and immediately grabs his phone. 2 p.m., fake productivity. Maybe he organizes his desk, but doesn't actually study. 8 p.m., he starts overthinking and begins the endless scroll. 2 a.m., he feels this heavy guilt, stares at the ceiling, and finally goes to sleep. Does this painful, repetitive timeline feel a little too familiar? It's a loop that slowly strips away your dreams, day by day. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that number 9. 9 hours of daily screen time. When Arjun saw this number on his phone, something broke inside him. Not just because of the massive number itself, that's more than a full-time job, but because it hit him like a physical blow. He wasn't really living anymore. His life was passing him by through a 6-inch piece of glass. Breaking down this hidden cost of mindless consumption is really the only way to realize the actual tangible value of your time.
Section 4. The hidden fear of trying, avoiding reality. So why do we do this to ourselves? Well, it's not just about algorithms and dopamine. There's a deep psychological root keeping you paralyzed right where you are. It's the safe, artificial glow of a phone screen versus the sharp, intimidating clarity of reality. The screen basically acts as a shield. Think about it. If you never put your phone down to fully try, then you never actually have to face the risk of fully failing. As long as you're distracted, you can protect your ego with this cozy fantasy that you could be successful if you just applied yourself. But here is the hard truth. Regret is heavier than failure. Holding on to that fantasy of your untouched potential might feel incredibly safe right now, basking in the glow of your screen. But years down the line, that fantasy inevitably sours into regret. And that weight, that weight is so much heavier than the sting of simply trying and failing.
Just pause for a second and ask yourself, are you scrolling to protect yourself from reality? Are you using those constant notifications to drown out the fear of actually testing your own limits? Really be honest with yourself here.
Section 5. The muddy water of distraction, finding clarity.
If we want to break this cycle, we have to wade through all that distraction and clear the mental slate to find out who you actually are beneath the noise. It's an incredibly stark contrast, isn't it? Talking to 500 people online and feeling totally empty versus meeting yourself in true silence. We are, without a doubt, the most connected generation in history, and yet somehow the absolute loneliest. We don't just need attention, we crave real, genuine human connection. But the second we're faced with silence, we run straight back to our phones, because sitting alone with our own thoughts has become completely terrifying. Silence, it's not just an absence of noise, but the quiet space where the mind finally settles, like mud in a glass of water, to reveal clarity. There's this old Buddhist story about a monk who hands his deeply disturbed student a cup of muddy water and just says, "Do nothing." Eventually, the mud settles on its own and the water becomes crystal clear. Your mind works the exact same way. Social media constantly shakes the glass, right? With opinions, trends, endless noise. Embracing silence is really the only way to let that mud settle so you can finally see clearly.
Section 6. Reclaiming your true identity. Transformation.
So, the crucial point is, once that mud settles, we have to face the boring reality of discipline. Nobody is coming to save you. True discipline is not cinematic, and real life requires quiet repetition. This is about taking back your personal agency, realizing that you and only you are in control of your destiny. It's not going to be a motivational video or a productivity hack or waiting for the perfect mood. Remember our anime analogy from earlier? Anime shows all the glorious epic battles, but real life, it's just waking up, studying, putting in the hours, and repeating it. It's fundamentally boring, and honestly, that is exactly why most people quit.
So, how do we get there? The path back to reality is built on a few practical, completely unglamorous steps to help you start living again. Try going just 1 hour without your phone today. Study without music playing in the background. Go for a walk without your headphones. Let your brain actually feel boredom. You don't have to delete everything and throw your phone in a river forever, you know? You just have to slowly detach from the constant overstimulation. You need to do this because boredom is where creativity starts. Boredom isn't this enemy you're constantly trying to outrun. It's actually the essential breathing room where your best thoughts, your true inner motivation, and those dreams you buried can finally surface from under all the noise.
And this brilliantly illustrates how tiny wins repeated daily become your new identity. You skip one mindless scroll. You study one chapter. You sit in silence for just 10 minutes. It's a quiet transformation that, honestly, no one else is even going to notice at first. But eventually, you'll realize you can focus again. You'll feel alive again. Not because life got magically easier, but because your mind got stronger when you chose focus over distraction.
We've covered a lot of ground in this explainer today, and I want to leave you with one final thought. If social media disappeared tomorrow, would my life finally begin? Deep down, you already know the dreams you've abandoned. You know who you are without the constant noise. The version of yourself you miss, that person is still there, waiting. I want you to just sit in silence today, really think about this question, and start taking your life back. Thanks for learning with me today.